programme this morning. Peter, this is an extraordinary development. It puts the conference in jeopardy, a conference that's designed to help people who are struggling in many countries where being LGBT is still illegal. What's your reaction to these 100 organisations pulling out?
Well, of course, the conference was groundbreaking. It is important, but I don't think LGBT organisations in Britain can go ahead and support it, given the government stance on excluding trans people from the proposed ban on conversion practices. That sends completely the wrong signal. The British government is going to be accused of hypocrisy when it hosts a conference, while at the same time doubling down against the trans community. And that is why more than 100 organisations, including my own Peter Tatchell Foundation, have very reluctantly decided that they will be withdrawing from the conference. We do have to send a signal to the government that unless it is serious about LGBT plus rights at home, how can it talk about LGBT plus rights around the world?
It does seem deeply concerning that if the government describes, for example, conversion therapy as abhorrent, which it does, not banning it for one of the four letters in LGBT sends a very curious message, and potentially one that will be used by nefarious regimes around the world who want to do more harm to those minority groups in their countries. The government has said that it will look at some form of restricting LGBT, or rather I should say transgender, conversion therapy, but we're getting no specifics here. If the government comes forward in short order with a plan to carry that forward, would your organisation consider rejoining the conference?
Well, of course, we'd have to take a look at what was proposed, but the government is talking about finding some kind of middle ground. Well, you either ban something or you don't. And, I'm open-minded. I'll be willing to listen to whatever the government proposes, but unless it is a clear ban that transgender people have the protection against these harmful, unethical practices, then I don't see how we or any organization in the community could possibly rejoin the conference. We can't stand by and let trans people who are often victims of these conversion practices and do result in people suffering very high levels of anxiety and depression. They don't work. And in some cases, people actually contemplate suicide. That's how damaging these practices are. So I can't see how there can be a compromise. But, I'm open-minded. I'll see what the government offers.
It's significant last night the first transgender MP, Jamie Wallis, issued a statement saying that if the conversion therapy ban passes through Parliament without any protections for transgender community, it cannot be described as anything other than a broken promise. Now, that's coming from a Conservative MP. Do you think that Boris Johnson, someone who's trumpeted the work he has done in favour of LGBT rights in the past. Of course, Boris Johnson was one of those people who founded Freedom to Marry, the Conservative campaign for equal marriage. He also voted to repeal Section 28 back in the early 2000s. Do you think Boris Johnson is at risk of losing what reputation he had as a progressive Conservative?
Well, absolutely. The Conservative government promised nearly 4 years ago in 2018 that they would ban conversion therapy, full stop. They reiterated the proposal for a complete ban in the Queen's speech last year. And only just last Wednesday, the Equalities Minister, Mike Freer, assured Parliament and the LGBT plus community that the ban was coming. So for this complete, first of all, U-turn, when they ditched conversion therapy completely, and then U-turned again to reinstate it for lesbian, gay and bisexual people, but not for trans people, it's chaotic, it's shambolic, and it's doing Boris Johnson's government and him personally a great deal of damage. It looks unprincipled, it looks incompetent, it looks like there is no clear message, no clear strategy, no clear commitment. And we're just left up in the air, and that's why people are pulling out.
Certainly a big sense of chaos, U-turn after U-turn, and even reportedly the Equalities Minister Liz Truss being aghast that the government is U-turning in this issue. Well, no doubt there will be more to talk about in this story in future weeks. We'll keep a close eye on it. But for now, Peter Tatchell, thank you very much for joining us on The Briefing.